Alrighty, hello, my name is Gina Saputo,
My name is Anthony Williams.
and this is our digital resource on, the brain and learning for adolescents. I will just share my screen here. And let me pull this over. Sorry, one second. Perfect. Alrighty, so we made a little slide deck that we could share with other teachers and administrators to kind of understand the inner workings of the brain and then provide some, actual examples and techniques that we can use to help promote learning based off the brain. So just really quickly, a little slide about why this matters. Um, why should we care as educators about the brain? Some basic structure. I go through these a little bit more in depth with the outer brain functions, so like frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, um, all those things that students may struggle with planning, focus, judgment, especially in adolescence. Then the inner brain functions, so like the amygdala, the hippocampus, all these things that really help promote more logical and abstract thinking in adolescence. And then some normal versus abnormal brain functions. It talks about some abnormal development with ADHD or anxiety or trauma. So we can sometimes understand that if a student is maybe acting out, it's not just because of a defiance of their age, but there could be something actually going on in their brain. And then some more brain changes, myelination, synaptic pruning. It's really important as educators to learn about the changes that are happening during adolescence. Um, and then some impacts on behavior and learning about some things that we can expect as this brain is changing and developing. And then I'll let Anthony lead the rest.
All right, perfect. And you could just keep your screen shared. I'll just hit
Yeah, I
next
got
when
you.
you're ready. Okay. Now we're going to talk about student awareness and how the inner and outer brain are impacted if the brain is properly developed. So, with properly development of the brain, it will impact the student performance. And here is how the inner and outer brain are positively affected in the classroom. So the hippocampus, we get longer memory. The amygdala gives us engagement and anxiety. The thalamus is attention and focus. The hypothalamus is stress. Our outer brain, the frontal lobe, it gives us access to judgment. Prefrontal cortex, we learn from our mistakes. The temporal lobes, retaining facts. The occipital lobes, faster reading. Parietal lobes, reading fluency. Brainstem, energy levels. And the cerebrum, reasoning. And a method of instruction I would use is Jenga, which would help build impulse control and forward thinking. Next. All right. Now, our next is the activity. The activity I would use when it comes to impacting our brain. So we have the inner brain. I would go with a specific strategy of a plan, do, review. And this is before a task, a student sets a specific goal. Something like, I will break this essay into chunks and summarize each part. After completing it, they complete it in 3 to 5 quick minute journal. What inner brain signals, what outer brain strategies, and one change for next time, self rating of progress. Next, we slide over to the choice matrix, which will give us the emotional and logical reflection. Students use a simple 4 quadrant matrix for any real or academic decisions. We'll list 2 to 4 options, fill in short term pros and cons, long term pros and cons, rate emotional gut feel. That way we get that inner brain signal excitement, anxiety, reward. We also want to rate logical outcome. That's outer brain evaluation. And then we choose one option and write one small next step. Very simple. Next. Now we go into self regulation. And this is important because this is the ability to manage emotions, impulses, and attention. The inner brain detects threats and opportunities, while the outer brain directs, guides, and inhibits those feelings. Okay. And here are how those students will be impacted performance wise in the classroom. The amygdala will give us fewer emotional outbursts. The hippocampus will give us a stronger study habits. Hypothalamus, emotional stability. Frontal lobes, stronger organization. Prefrontal cortex, problem solving. Parietal lobes equals better integration of information. Now, for a method of instruction for this one, we would do memory card games. This will train the brain to retain information and shift strategies when needed. All right, next. I'm saying next, it's not moving. All right, here we go. Now we're here with decision making. And for the method of instruction for this one, we're going old school. All right. Tetris. Tetris improves visual attention, pattern recognition, and processing charts. All right. In a developing brain, the decision making process brings the inner and outer brain together for its daily process. Through healthy habits like sleeping, nutrition, and supportive environment, students will become smarter. The inner brain will interpret and assignments at, the inner brain will interpret an assignment as overwhelming. The outer brain will break down the information and recall ways you use effective strategies that worked in the past. Now we get into problem solving. And the method of instruction we can use for this is a very fun game that we have in Chicago at Navy Pier called the Escape Room. But this is a classroom escape room. And this can impact the students by increasing their ability to reason, memory, and sensory motor condition. The inner brain, a student's emotions and motivational foundation comes from the inner brain. Better engagement, comprehension, and clearer thinking are all attributed to the inner brain. Next, the outer brain. The outer brain is there to help students think logically. Multi step problems, learning from feedback, and stronger math performances are all linked to the outer brain.
Alrighty, and then our last kind of digital tool that we wanted to show the teachers. I personally use this in my classroom. I work with adolescents, and it's Kahoot. I feel like we've all heard of it. It's the
Yes.
classic. It has all these things that are really good for the brain, like attention and focus, the timers and the visuals and the music. It keeps the kids super engaged. And then the processing speed. You only have a short amount of time to make a decision. So not only does it help the students make quicker decisions, but it also strengthens their decision-making skills when they have to actually be like, okay, which one is the answer? And I need to figure this out fast. And then
Yes.
again, with like the memory retrieval, like you have to know the information, right, to get the answers correct. So this is the repeated questions really helps with that. And of course, who doesn't love a competition, right? It helps with our motivation, it keeps us focused, it keeps us on task. So I love Kahoot. I'm an ELA teacher, so I like to do it when we have a vocab quiz.
Yes.
And it gets the kids really excited. And it gives them a chance to be like, okay, what do I need to study? What do I know? And what do I need to study for tonight? And that is the end of our resource. So I'll stop sharing my screen here and we can go back. And so now we just are gonna talk about how it was collaborating.
Oh, this was great. I
Yeah.
think you did a great job, Gina, kicking it off with the template to
Thank you.
really set the standard of where we were going with it.
Yeah,
Because I still didn't really know exactly how to present it. As you saw in the group chat, I had an idea of what was being asked of us, but I had no idea exactly what that was going to look like. So I really thank
right.
you for coming through with a nice home run and giving me something
Thank
to run
you.
off of.
Of course. Yeah, no, I just thought that like, because it was pretty open-ended with like how we could do the assignment. And I thought, you know what, would be easy slides. Like is a collaborative assignment. We can work on a slide template together and it'll just be like boom, boom, and boom, done. And then with the two people not joining our group, I knew that, we both had to take more work under, which, we're teachers, we can handle that. But,
Exactly.
and yeah, we just figured it out and that's what we got to do. So yeah, I think we worked great together, and it's been pleasure doing this with you.
Yes. Do you feel like any of these things that we learn you will be able to apply in the classroom?
Totally, totally. I think group work is so important, especially working with like kids and adolescents, because like we're here, this is always going to be a part of our lives. So giving my students like the opportunities to be like, okay, you know what, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to, someone's going to have to delegate, someone's going to take on a leadership role. And I think that in giving them the chance to do it in like a safe and supported environment, I think is really
Yes.
important.
Yes. Sam, I
Yeah.
feel like I learned a lot about my students who sleep a lot, the
Hmm.
things that impact them, as a teacher, and I also had a background as a mentor. I
Wow.
have my experience to go off of, but it's always great when you can get the words from scholars to back up what you're seeing. And
Totally.
so to see that the sleep does impact the performance in the classroom, if they're
Totally.
hungry or not, does impact the performance in the classroom. The trauma that they have experienced does impact how the student will perform in the classroom. So it continues my theory of the belief that students who perform negatively usually have a lot of things that they're dealing with at home.
One.
And the teacher, a lot of time, receives the brunt of the blame for the issues of the
Yeah.
student. But in reality, if we were to follow the child home and could correct a lot of the things that go on there that impact their neuro, we would be so much further ahead in regards to preparing students for college.
Totally. And that can even bring us to our last question about creating that supportive culture for students because we know our students have things going on, at home and in their personal life, and that does directly affect how they come to school. So I think as teachers, we all need to come together and understand using like resources like these, using the brain and collaborating together to really help support these kids and being like, you know what? It's okay that you're not doing well right now. These are some strategies that will help because this is a normal part of the process, right? Like it's not
Yes,
going to be a perfect day every day. And so if all the, teachers, we all have this one vision of helping students, figure out their path, I think it's really going to help.
yeah, I found myself giving my students a little bit more leeway when they go to sleep now, because now I know I make sure they get the lesson plan as much as they can. But if I see them knocked out, I'll just give them a little break now, because I know that maybe they didn't get sleep, and maybe I
Yeah.
know that I can get them my lesson plan. But if maybe they can get this sleep here, they can be a little bit more alert for their next class.
Totally. And it's so important. And like also like letting them eat in class and taking breaks. I think especially I work with middle schoolers, so they're a little bit older. Like and
Yes, I work with seventh graders as
oh,
well.
okay, nice. Yeah. So I feel like it's also letting them do that, but also giving them the skills to self-advocate for that. So them
Yes,
knowing themselves, if they're feeling like I have a lot of students that just get really jittery sitting down and just need a go take a lap and I instead of them like running out of their chair up and down the room just asking me like hey miss I'm feeling kind of antsy, can I go take a break, can I go take a
yeah,
lap? And that's like that's great, that's perfect for me because just but I just want to give them the skills to know their mind and to know their brain and how it's working so they
yes.
can help themselves in the long run.
I think that's great. One thing that I've been able to give the kids to help with the supportive environment is I've been teaching them how to write their notes down,
Hmm.
um, and teaching them how that impacts the brain and how when we write with our hand, we move our brain at the same time as
Totally.
opposed to typing our thoughts down. And I've been able to see that the retention of the kids on tests has improved.
Hmm.
So things like that we can do just to
Yeah,
support them
totally.
and really lock that information in, which will help with their jitteriness. Because the more confident they feel about what they're doing, the less anxious they will be.
For sure. For sure. Alrighty, well, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Same.
Good luck with everything to you. I can put this video in the assignment and submit it. So,
That will work. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the last of the citations in there, and
okay.
we're done.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you again.
All
This is
right.
great.
Yes, good luck. Hope your daughter feels better.
Oh, well, she will be. She'll be fine.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.